Hi, David. It's so great to be in conversation with you, as always.
Hello, Kaya Henderson. It's great to see you as well.
Do you want to kick us off, or should I kick us off? So much
Well,
to talk about.
Kaya, not to exaggerate in front of a crowd, but since you're one of the superintendents, the public servants I most admire for your historic accomplishment in DC, and I will note their lasting power on NAEP and other achievements to this day. I'm curious how you're spending your time.
How am I spending my time? This pandemic created an incredible opportunity for me to do something that I have always dreamed about, and that is to move away from the formal education system and pay attention to some things that I think that we have not been paying attention to. And that is a deep commitment to cultural and identity development for African American students. I started a company called Reconstruction, which provides an unapologetically Black education specifically targeting Black students and families, but open to everybody, because what we know is, in addition to the hardcore academic skills that young people need to be successful in college and in careers, that young people need to have confidence. Young people need to have a deep sense of self. Young people need to see themselves as agents for change, and they can't do that when they get their own history that is bastardized and just in fact not told correctly, when they've never seen examples in school of great heroes and heroines, innovators and entrepreneurs, or when they're told that they come from people who are lazy as opposed to resilient and industrious and brilliant. And so I'm having a whole lot of fun designing classes for kindergarten through 12th graders and now even adults. I'm teaching Black history and Black culture in ways that help our students see themselves differently in school and see themselves differently in the world.
It's amazing. And our work is mainly in high schools, but I can say that I'm hearing everywhere about your work, which causes a special pride because I've admired you for so long. And we'll have more to say about the College Board's plans in instruction soon, that I hope will complement your efforts and learn from them.
That's the thing about our friendship, I think, is that we are always doing things that seem to go hand in hand. And
Yeah.
as we think about the crisis, I think that our young people are facing coming out of this pandemic, and as those of us who are in charge of a lot of things try to figure out how we help them to rebound and get back on track for success, I think that the work that Reconstruction is doing to build strong children and strong young people goes hand in hand with the access promoting opportunities that the College Board is creating for folks. And what I love about the College Board, besides full disclosure, I used to be a trustee on the Board of Trustees for the College Board. So my loyalty to the organization runs deep. But it's because I've watched your leadership of the College Board be all about expanding access and opportunity, especially for our young people who need it the most. And so I'd love to know how you're spending your time these days.
Well, just like you reflected after the superintendency, and during COVID and saw new opportunities, so I and we have been reflecting. There's been a lot of talk about the SAT, probably too much talk, and about the PSAT, and I want to clear our minds for a minute because I think all that talk is about its role in admissions, and I might return to that, but for a moment I want to think about something totally different about those exams. Those exams reach millions of young people, and what do they say to those students who are, by the time they reach high school, likely not ready for a four-year degree? And certainly when they take the exams, they receive scores that show that they are not yet ready, likely ready for a four-year degree, for a four-year program. And that happens to be, as you know so well from your work, a majority of the students in high school. And I want to think about identity in the way you probed for a moment, about what high school looks and feels like to those young people who are told, including by forces like ourselves, repeatedly, you are not ready. And when I look over their score reports, and that, it does say you can practice on Khan Academy, you can do more, but it offers one model of success and excellence, which is attending, college, or particularly a four-year program. And we've begun to reconsider our entire work to challenge ourselves that must not we do far more for high school students, the majority of high school students, who are not likely on track for a 4-year program. And how can we say so much more to them and that be consequential? And it's interesting because even the SAT itself for students on their way to a 4-year college, its actual power is less in ranking students, although that's what fascinates people. But often for many students who, when they take it in their school, not on a Saturday, many of them who are ready for a 4-year college, who didn't think they were or who weren't planning on it, raise their hands 20% more just by doing it. Think about it. And if a college writes back to them, finds their name, it increases their chances of going quite a lot. So the secret power of that moment of taking an exam is not really what it gives you back as a score, but is if you are seen, and particularly if a conversation opens up. So what if that could be true for those students who are not yet ready for a 4-year degree? So what we're contemplating is a partnership with players like JFF, who assembles us here today, players like Strata, other providers of information, to provide a young person in that situation with terrific local information about credentials that are within their reach, that are within their power, nearby, that they could get to advance their lives. And we've begun working on this with a set of tools called Career Finder, where we've mapped the PSAT, et cetera, to career opportunities. We ask students an interest inventory because it's all about what you love to do. And, if you look at it, we're thinking about a student like, we in our research, a woman who's leading our work, a woman named Lily, lives down the road from her, and she got our score report, and it said she wasn't ready, and she was discouraged. But she had the frame of mind to look around and find a great dental degree program. She went from being a dental assistant to moving up the ladder. And why can't we be partnering with organizations so that we can say to a young person, you actually already have what it takes. You may not yet be ready for a 4-year college, but there's a terrific community college opportunity right around the corner. There's a terrific productive credential you could get. And we're here to listen and learn as we develop that idea. And some students who go to community college, of course, are ready for a 4-year college, but it's a great first step to them. They may transfer, they may do other things, and we have not done nearly enough to build those transitions. And Kaya, if you don't mind me being slightly political, as I know you don't, let's be frank. This is not just about giving a huge amount of young people better career opportunities and allowing employers to fill gaps in these middle skill jobs, which is an urgent thing. It is also to prevent the predatory practices that put these young people at so much peril.
Yes.
Where there is $1 trillion of debt, there's $1 trillion of profit for somebody else. Mm-hmm. The amount of unholy money being made, taking advantage of such young people with not productive opportunities, it's time that we and partners step in and give good choices and options. And that's why I think partners like JFF have such a role in helping us find quality options for young people, particularly those not ready for a 4-year degree.
I think this is a surprising position for the College Board as far as some people are concerned. Yet, I also know the College Board's historical commitment to equity. And so what does it mean to have the college, first, the second word in your title, the College Board say, we are actually looking at pathways beyond a 4-year institution, and the SAT isn't the end all to the be all. What kind of power does that have in how we view 4-year degrees, and what power does that have to shift the conversation around people who are not ready?
In my view, Kaya, let us say with a clear voice, and if the College Board can contribute, it is to say there should always be a big future for every young person in our high schools. And that big future may begin in different ways. And sure, it may wind up at a 4-year degree at some point if that is a productive next step for your future. But that is absolutely not the only way. And the SAT should always be a small part, one part of that information. It's got to begin with young people's interests. It's got to begin with what's around them and connecting them to it. And I think this is a time for the College Board to listen to a group of voices that have been calling on us for some time, to have a more diverse view of the colleges we interact with, including a much more vibrant relationship with community colleges, and doing much more to create linkages between students in them and productive degree programs, but also other credentialing programs. So I think it's time for humility, but also to use the full freight of our voice to say we have not adequately served thus far the students in this country. What we've done is not enough. There are students who are in the shadows. It's a majority of students, and they've been betrayed to harm, and it's time for us to change.
This, I think, comports with one of the big questions that I think the pandemic educational experience is forcing us to answer. And that is, how do we now define student success
Exactly right.
in a moment where education has been upended? Because clearly it's no longer just about math and reading scores or
That's
SAT
exactly right.
scores. And this is an opportunity, I think, to be expansive in the way that the College Board is being expansive in not just including skills as a marker of student success, but developing kids' passions and their talents and their
Exactly right.
interests and their motivations. But as you and I both know from our deep, deep experience in dealing with public schools across the United States, and from the policy debate over the last 20 years around assessment and standards and whatnot, teachers in high schools don't have the freedom or the time or the space
Exactly
to
right.
help kids develop their passions and their talents and to figure out what it is they want to do with their lives. What do we do about that?
Well, first and foremost, there we've got to arm the people we do have, the teachers, the school counselors, and other coaches with good information about excellent local choices. There is such an information problem, Kaya. You may know if you even look at our Big Future website, which is freely available to everyone, you're trying to look for a four-year college, it gives you all you need. But if you're trying to look in your neighborhood for a productive degree program where you can advance yourself short of that, good luck. So that's the first problem. If that information is not easily available to anyone looking, there's no chance for our most disadvantaged to face that. And then, as people are talking about now, what are the right mentorship structures? How can we then provide that information to every single partner for free, every single group that's interacting with young people, that they can use that information as a starting off point? I think that is our special power, is to present is to say to a kid, I mean, imagine if your score report said to you, you already are qualified for these tree programs around you, and you can work harder and do other things, and you can do other things, but you could do this today. Because I think what you say about identity, about confidence, so requires a concrete next step, something to believe in where you can go.
This is the challenge, right? We are trying to prepare young people to not only change the trajectory of their own lives or of their families' lives or of their communities, but to in fact change the world. And we can't do that unless we provide them with a plethora of options. And I think
Exactly right.
the pandemic has showed us that young people are ready to step up in new ways. They've been industrious when systems have failed us.
Exactly right.
Parents have stepped up and
Exactly right.
employers have stepped up. And I think we now have to make the match and
Exactly.
remind ourselves that it's not just schools or school systems or institutions of higher education, that it actually takes the proverbial village, that all of us have a role to play, including employers, including the College
Exactly.
Board, including school systems in preparing our young people.
And what we've learned from our other work with the SAT is when young people hear from a potential college or a potential employer or someone they want to hear from, and they do that, that conversation, Kaya, as you know, begins to change them and begins to open them up.
Talk about the impact that that has, not just on young people generally, but on low income students, on rural students, on minority students. I know you've done a
It's,
lot of work in that area.
I'll just give you like a quick statistic that I find a bit mind blowing. Do you know that if a college gets in touch with you, if they look for your name, it is 26% more likely that you, compared to a student who looks just like you, will go on to go to college and actually persevere. The power of being seen is so fundamental, and we forget, and those of us in urban environments can even forget how isolating it is to be in a rural context. And you know how strongly I feel that tools like Landscape that are freely available allow students who are in, when combined with their grades and their scores, allow them to be seen regardless if their high school isn't as well known. I mean, we have informal data that in our top colleges, something like 50% of students, to give you a sense, come from 3% of our nation's high schools. Just to give you a sense, I mean, and people sense this, right? People sense that there is a network of power, and I'm afraid there is. And we, just to call it on ourselves, need to do so much more to create a set of tools so that low income, underserved students, whether they're rural, Black students, Native American students who face the isolation of small towns and are often unknown and unseen, that they can raise their hands with an equal legitimacy. And I think there's so much work there. But I also want to say that the work they do in classrooms around identity, finding themselves, Kaya, we're finding that students who do project-based work in our courses, like our new computer science principles course, are including particularly Black students, are so much more likely to go on and major in computer science. It's important that the work allows them to express themselves in what they love. And we found some project-based work is doing that in powerful ways. I bet you're finding that at Reconstruction too.
Absolutely. When kids can solve real world problems in
Exactly.
the work that they're doing, they not only have amazing solutions, but they go on to get better much more quickly. They go deep into the intellectualism of whatever that issue is. But this is
Exactly. Yes.
this is what we know about how people learn, right? How you learn is you find something that you're passionate about, and then you throw yourself, into that. And you find out everything about it and you learn how to do it well. And we've got to help our schools understand that that is part of the work. I mean, I have gone on record as saying we need to blow up American high schools because, in
Yeah,
fact, I'm not exactly sure what they're preparing young people for, but they don't do enough to expose young people to the careers that are out there.
exactly.
They don't do enough to connect learning to job opportunities. We just, I mean, we opened a number of career academies with the National Academy Foundation as I was leading DC public schools that exposed young people to careers in the environmental sciences and computer sciences, in hospitality and tourism, and in construction trades and health allied trades, because those were the local examples of high wage, high growth industries. And so we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can prepare kids for deeply academic experiences at colleges, at four-year colleges and universities. We can also expose them and help them develop their passions, while they're in high school. But it's going to mean that high school has to be very different. Right now,
Yeah.
we're focused on how much time children sit in a seat, not mastery of concepts, not exposure to new ideas and experiences. And in fact, at this particular moment in our history, we are seeing state legislatures enact laws to stop young people from having the kinds of critical conversations that are going to prepare them both for the university and for careers. What do we do in this moment, David?
Well, I can tell you one thing we do, and that is, you know how you hear there aren't a lot of Black engineers and computer scientists, and you might think that's how God made things, but it's not actually. It's how we made things. We had a computer science course, Kaya, for 20 years, in which there were always 80% young men and 20% young women. In 2004, excuse me, in 14 states in this country, in 2004, not a single Black person or Latina person took that advanced computer science exam.
Mhm.
So whose fault is that? Like, we just made a course, they didn't take it. But you know what? It's a fault of design. We designed a new course instead. We changed the invitation called Computer Science Principles, which said not, would you like to learn the advanced grammar of something, a foreign language that has not yet interested you? It said, would you like to draw on your passion? Would you like to use the arts or science or anything you love to do and solve a problem? In a few short years, there are now tens of thousands of Blacks and Latinos in this course. But more importantly, what I quoted to you, if they take that course alone, they are 3 times more likely to major in computer science in college. That is, we must change the invitation. I don't know if I should or can say we should blow up high school, but we must change the invitation because the way we are inviting young people into what they love to do is not working. The old courses are not working. We need to think again.
And I mean, I think the big takeaway from the statistic that you shared earlier and the examples that you've given us is that there's a whole lot of talent that we're leaving
We
on
do
the
not
table.
see.
There's no
Yeah,
way that 3% of our high schools represent all the talent, the great talent that we have in this country. And so I commend the College Board for doing what it needs to do to help pick up that talent and expand the talent pool. And I'm thankful to JFF and its partners for being part of the ecosystem that is going to deliver
exactly.
for our young people in a new way. This has been a great
We can't wait
conversation.
to learn from you too. Thank you all so much.
Thanks.